British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says his country will support the development of clean energy among Commonwealth nations, announcing a package with a potential to create over 180,000 jobs and cut carbon emissions. Speaking in Kigali, he also announced £160 million investments in hydropower.
British international investment is putting £160 million into hydropower in Africa, creating 180,000 jobs, including here in Rwanda, while at the same time cutting carbon emissions, generating electricity for 3 million people.
Johnson said partnerships among Commonwealth nations could deliver prosperity from the green economy.
What I feel so strongly about the Commonwealth is it's not just about the imports and the exports. It's about the partnerships that we build. It's about doing more together to ensure that everyone prospers from the new green industrial revolution. I saw some of you, I'm proud to say, at the Africa Investment Summit in London in 2020. Remember that, just before COVID struck, a moment of real optimism. Well, I want you to know we're doing the same again next year.
From next month, 65 developing countries, including Rwanda and 17 other Commonwealth members, should benefit from a preferential trading system, said the British Prime Minister.
Africa between challenges and opportunities. This was the main theme of the second edition of the CIAN African Forum held in Paris on Thursday. Guest of honor of this edition was the President of Niger, who launched an appeal to foreign investors, particularly in the agricultural sector. In the context of the war in Ukraine, African countries want to take advantage of their potential of unused farmland. In Gabon, they are turning to cassava farming to counter the shortage of wheat flour. It is not enough to produce cassava. We must install a processing chain to obtain cassava flour after the first, second and third processing. This will considerably reduce our imports and will allow us to obtain 100% cassava-based bread with the ability to create wealth locally by producing a bread that corresponds to the consumption habits of the Gabonese people. Another unavoidable theme, the energy transition, is a real ladder for job creation, according to Raoul Maxence Ominga, director of the National Oil Company of Congo. Behind all this, there are projects that will give people jobs, new industries to be set. So behind all this, there must be training so that the people adapt to this new situation, because electricity means handling new tools that will require training, but also a period of adaptation. This new transition and diversification strategies will require adapting the workforce to the needs of these new growth models. In most countries, public education systems represent 60 to 80%, so governments have an obligation, because they are the ultimate decision makers, to revolutionize the curricula in universities and especially to offer new courses of study that will link new professions. After a clear rebound in 2021, African growth could be slowed down by the consequences of the war in Ukraine. This is an opportunity to reopen the debate on the economic sovereignty of the continent, which now seems determined to move away from the dependence on imports to promote self-sufficiency. This week marks the end of the 2022 edition of the Dakar Biennale. These art pieces are being displayed for the last time, after having camped for almost a month here. The presence of these African arts and cultures has aroused so much enthusiasm, with the organizers praising this year's display. This year's Dakar's Biennale has kept all its promises. We had between 450 and 460,000 visitors, unlike in 2018 that we had over 180,000 visitors at the main expo site. So I think it is truly a great success. A success that makes art lovers forget the 4 years of confinement due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but the organizers are all aware of the importance of this success so that the challenges become even greater.
Je pense que c'est aussi un challenge, c'est aussi en fait un enjeu.
I think that it is also a challenge, a stake. We must manage to maintain this cause so that the universe, the environment, and I will even say the world of art can consider Dakar the capital of plastic arts.
Considérer Dakar comme une capitale véritablement des arts plastiques.
The curtains have fallen on this 14th edition of the Dakar Biennale. 4 weeks of lively interactions, but above all, this was a great mobilization that brought in many visitors, hence the satisfaction to the organizers. But beyond that, there will be another event pitting the same artists and the public, who will meet again in 2 years for the 15th edition of this biennale in the Senegalese capital.
Je suis Wahani Johnson Sambou, correspondant au Sénégal pour Africa News.
Zambia's President Hichilema said Thursday his country is well placed despite the global food crisis worsened by the war in Ukraine. Hichilema stressed that Zambia and the European Union were cooperating on agricultural projects, but he called for more collaboration in that sector.
As the world faces critical shortages of key agricultural produce, and as we witness the devastating effects of food insecurity in all our regions of Africa and beyond, Zambia is well placed. May I remind the House, Zambia is well placed and suited and aims to be a major contributor to addressing this insecurity in the food around the world.
Hichilema, whose government inherited $17.3 billion in debt when he was elected last year, is working to restore battered relations with the donors and restructure the load. Zambia was Africa's first country to default during the COVID-19 pandemic. In December, Zambia won a $1.4 billion bailout from the International Monetary Fund on promises of establishing budgetary stability. The West accuses Russia of blocking vital grain shipment from Ukraine in a bid to force clampdown on sanctions over the war. Somaliland is reeling from a high shortage of wheat due to the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia. 90% of Somaliland's grain comes from Russia and Ukraine. The state has not had a delivery in 3 months, and there is a risk of people losing one of their most important source of food, bread. The drought we are facing, you can see, is widespread and biting from east to west. Of all the droughts I've gone through, this one is the worst. The Horn of Africa, including Somaliland, is seeing its worst drought in 40 years. Several families are now lacking food and are now worried about tomorrow. This has also affected other companies in the area as their workers cannot show for work. Everyone will lose his job. Also our Somalia people. How will they get food? The entire Horn of Africa could also be affected, and aid agencies have warned that soon a famine will be declared if more funding is not raised.